We are going on in our perusal of the Orchos Chaim of the Rosh, and we are now up to Siman Samech. Al tevahel lichtsof mishum davar. Do not get excited, foamy, frothy from anything. Extend your anger. In other words, refrain as much as possible, lest you lose your wisdom. Well, the obvious good advice, but point is that the anger was preceded by ketzev, by the foam, and the foaming at the mouth, sometimes used literally, but here figuratively means things are bubbling up inside you, and the person can still catch himself at that stage. Once a person gets past the bubbling up stage, it's much more difficult to catch oneself and restrain oneself. So therefore, when you're in the stage of ketzev, try and stop yourself. And if you do get angry, which of course is not a good thing, and you should try and diffuse it. Harecha pecha. In other words, try and have it at a low burn for an extended period, as opposed to high burn in one fell swoop, one shock. And that is a skula. That's good to lose your chachma. In other words, when a person is gets angry and with that intensity and flame, I know of which I speak because I'm a redhead. So then it actually causes the person to go against what he knows is right, and that is always something which is a loss of the wisdom which God gave you. I had a dream recently that I got into arguing with my wife, and it was in a dream. Not on purpose, not awake, but I got arguing with my wife. I don't forget what it was, and I knew she was right. And I was arguing anyway because I didn't want to give in. And this is freely what we do. That's just a small insight of Avedas Chachma. When a person gets really angry, a person loses their wisdom and loses their discipline, and all sorts of negative ramifications can occur. Samachav, altotzi mimcha ikshus pev nibo. Do not let your mouth utter things which are literally stubborn, but obviously means here coarse talk, v'nivo and profane talk. Everything a person says is taken in judgment. It says is taken into account. Even light talk between a man and wife is taken into account. Of course, there are the right things to say at the right time in the right place, and the wrong things to say at the wrong time, wrong place. And there's certain things which are intrinsically nivel peh, and certain things which are coarse and base at the time. And the person, of course, has to take tremendous care because since the koyach of dibur is what makes a human being, a person has to be very careful what one says, not to use something which will lead to tumas spasayim. So in a public where there's a chilul Hashem, even a public where it's going to lead a person to be metame, that same organ with which he davens and which he learns and which he's supposed to talk words of elevation, not words of degradation. Samech Beis, Al Tachzik Atzchem Chavrecha Yom Echad. Not supposed to go to bed. The marriage council say you're not supposed to ever go to bed angry. So you shouldn't let your anger with your friends simmer even one day. Tikana lefanav levakish min mechila kodim. So the lesson learned the very, very hard way over a very long time. You should always submit yourself to ask mechila, even though that you feel that you're the one who's been wrong, you're the one who's been slighted, you're the one who should be asked forgiveness first. Nevertheless, the person is supposed to be ma'od shval ruach. Ma'od shval ruach means they should have no errors, even when they're right. And therefore, a person has to take, as much as possible, the initiative in rectifying the situation. Both people take the initiative, then it's great. But no matter what, you have to be the one. Even if you are on the right and the person he or she is in the wrong, you have to take the initiative. This is it's true even where you're in a superior position. Teacher and a student, for example. If you have a student who you feel you were harsh towards and you feel is justified, nevertheless, you should ask forgiveness first. The student will always appreciate that. Students like teachers who are human and humane, as well as teachers who are strict and stringent. And this applies certainly to somebody who works for you. Same idea. The greater the gap, the more the greater person has to take the initiative. Sama Gimel, Al Tedaber b'tzavar atak. Don't speak with a uplifted neck. V'al ta'iz metach, and don't have a brazen forehead. Shelo kabel lecha yiras shamayim, not to accept upon yourself the awe of heaven. In other words, a person who speaks boldly, right? He raises his neck, and or his may is upon him, right? These are signs. Since we don't really have that language. We have kashrus oref, which is different. Kashrus oref means stubbornness, just like the back of the head is hard. But savar atak means that your neck is dislodged because it's so high and mighty. So that's not, the person is supposed to make sure not to do that and not to be overly brazen. And this is interesting because in Chazal, these frames of mind are very much associated with the placement of the head. Einayim Ramos, Netias Garon, Savar Atak, Kashus Aref, Azus Metzach. And evidently, one of these things can be controlled by using these limbs, these organs, and deliberately putting them in the opposite position. Otherwise, the metaphor doesn't seem to have any advantage to us. What is it teaching us? But it seems that this actually is a way, by actually being makbid on trying to look lower, trying to keep its eyes down, trying to be more soft-necked. I'm not sure exactly do that, but the person is supposed to pay attention to the manifestations of these phenomena in the physical realm, and thus try and work on them as well. And this is a person who is superficial in the sense that his outer limbs are negative, and they manifest that negativity. He is impervious to Yiras Shamayim, not just impervious to things in this world, but he is impervious to Yiras Shamayim, which is a big problem. Samach Dalet. Al toshimu charpecha vazecha. Don't respond to those who blaspheme you and degrade you. Tasim yad lepeh, put a hand on your mouth. Again, using the physical body in order to accomplish these levels of musar. Ushtok, and be silent. Penei chama vavcha, lest your heart get hot. So it's not just that it's a madrega to be an anav or shval ruach, but it's not a good idea, because once you get involved, it's a slippery slope up to arrogance and chema in your heart. And even if you think you're just doing superficially, they taunted you, you taunted them, big deal, sticks and stones, break your bones, but names never harm us. No, these things can escalate. Anything can escalate. Anything inappropriate can escalate to something severely inappropriate and wrong. So therefore, a person has to take care not just to refrain from getting internally angry, but even to respond to a taunt in a good-natured way is something which a person has to deliberate on and question over and over again. Samachay, al tisaber riv lo lecha. Do not get involved in a fight which is not yours. Eventually, they're going to make peace between the two of them. And you're going to remain in anger. In other words, triangulations are always very dangerous. If you try to get involved with a fight, so you are just as likely to come out being the one who they then perceive as an outsider, who they resent, as somebody who they perceive as being on one of their sides or the other. So this is, of course, not like Aaron a Cohen who went to both sides and it was Oiv Shom, brother Shom, said this one, he really wants to apologize to you, he really wants to apologize to you. That's not misaber or riv lo lo. Misaber means to get involved, like stick out one's, like Isha Muberes, or stomach sticks out, there's to stick oneself into the fray. So if it's a riv lo lo, obviously we have a tremendous desire to get involved in this kind of fight, because we have a nature to derive pleasure from this. No, eventually it's going to backfire on you, and you're going to lose out as a result. Samach Vav, Al Tiskel Abrios. Do not be prideful on other people. Tia Shval Ruach. You should be low of spirit, as you mentioned several times already today. Kafar Shakol Dashim Bo, and like the dust that everybody treads on it. Everybody stamps on it. So, of course, this is a 101, basic Torah values. Gaiva is push a person out of this world. Like Rosh says, and even who Yecholim Ladur, forget the exact language, we can't live in the same place. But what's interesting is that it's not just there, it's perhaps about Gaiva, Klape Shmaya, but here's the Klape, here it's towards other people. And even if you have what to be proud about, it's not a reason to be proud. Savava says, no matter what, there's no reason to be proud. Things and I probably quoted it before, but it bears repeating. If they're better than you, they're talking better than you. And if they're not better than you, maybe they have far less potential. They're achieving much other potential relative to you than you're achieving relative to your own potential. So the person always has to be shval ruach, and this, of course, is very difficult for people in higher positions. But again, the higher you are, the more essential it is. And like the dirt that everybody steps on. In other words, you should have no errors and no your self-esteem should not be contingent on what others think about you. And your self-esteem should not suffer even if others step on you, because you are who you are and you're not changed by what other people do to you, even if it's something which is degrading and negative. Samach Zayin, Alti Baz L'chol Adam, do not scoff at anybody. Obviously, it's the flip side of not being about Gaiva, is also not being degrading other people. Or don't degrade anything. Every person has his hour, and everything has its place. Because everything is here for a reason. Because Baruch Hu created things for reasons. Everything has a specific reason for its own time and its place, whenever that may be. So to degrade something is actually to degrade HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this doesn't matter. This is insignificant. This is something which I question why you created. So a person obviously doesn't want to do that, and a person should in general try and see the positive in other people and other things, and try and learn Mikol Adam as opposed to negating them. Tzedek tirdof, pursue, run after justice. But here he says that tzedek is tzedakah, not bringing the balance back, which is normally what tzedek is mean. But here he's saying, in the sense, it's a Jewish sense of tzedakah, pursue tzedakah. Kirodev tzedakah b'chesed, those who pursue tzedakah, charity and chesed and kindness, yimtzah chayim, who find life, tzedakah, charity, in other words, the opportunity to do charity, the kavod and honor. You should give the machzis shekel at least once a year at one time. Because we know that there are two ways to look at tzedakah. One of them is that doing it frequently makes a person more habitually doing tzedakah, and the other is that doing one large deed makes a much more impact on a person and his devotion to tzedakah. So the Rosh says you should do both, right? once a year, and whatever you can, every month and every month and every week. I can't say I'm not on this. Maybe I probably should. Do not give. Do not remember. You should not miss any day giving at least a small gift to Matnos Hanim, at least before davening, right? That's the way a person prepares to daven. Forget where you learn that from, but titain, and if you got to the level where you can give meiser, not everybody does, you give it, and you will receive reward in the income in your household. Give to whoever you can give, whether they're alive or dead, whether they're poor or rich. There's always something you can give to anybody. It's not always easy to figure out, but it's always there, and that is what we're here for, to resemble HaKadosh Baruch Hu and give to whoever we can, ben Chaim, Mesim, ben Ani, ben Ashir.